This short story is based on the real history of a young king. He was betrayed, removed from the throne, and sent away to a faraway province. It takes place in the year AD 1452, a troubled time in Korean history. A 12-year-old boy became king, but his rule was weak from the start. Within 1 year, his uncle, Sujong, took power in a coup and the whole country was covered in blood. The young king's followers were caught and killed one by one. The young king had to listen quietly as those who once protected him were killed. He knew what was happening, but he had no power to stop it. A palace maid tried to get him to eat, but he refused. Then, Minister Han, who had joined the rebellion, came into the quiet room. The young king looked at him and asked, "Is he the next one to die?" But Minister Han calmly said, "No." Far from the palace, life was very hard. In a small village in Gwangju province, a village head named Hong and some villagers were hunting a deer. They were not skilled hunters, so they missed many times. Finally, Hong shot the deer, but before he could get it, a tiger suddenly appeared and chased him. Hong ran deep into the forest and fell into some bushes. The others saw him fall, but they thought he was just resting lazily, so they went back without helping. Later, Hong was found by people from a nearby village and taken there. What he saw amazed him. Unlike his village, this village had plenty of food, and the people were healthy and happy. This was so different from his own poor village that Hong became curious. He asked the village head, "Why is this village so rich?" The village head explained that everything changed after they welcomed a minister who had been sent away from the capital. That minister helped them, taught the children, and made the whole village prosperous. After hearing the story, Hong returned to his village and told everyone what he had learned. He got an idea. If a minister from the province can change another village, he thought, then if we bring one here, he can change our village too. The villagers thought Hong's plan was too dangerous, but Hong said, "This is a chance. It's better than doing nothing and starving to death." With no other choice, he decided to go through with his plan. Hong went to the governor's office. He competed with another village head to get a new official for his village. Hong said, "Our village is the best choice because it is very far and hard to live in." Hearing this, Minister Han decided to send the overthrown young king there. He believed the tough conditions in the village would kill the young king without them having to do anything. As soon as Hong returned to his village, he began preparing. He told the villagers to fix up a place to live as best as they could for the new official. After the official ceremonies were stopped, the former king was given a new name, Prince Nozin. And so, the prince traveled for 2 days over rough roads to reach the faraway village. Village headman Hong welcomed him warmly and took him across the river on a raft. But the raft hit a rock. Everyone tried to pull them in, but the ropes broke and they fell into the water. When village headman finally saw the official's face, all his hopes fell apart. Instead of a wise, experienced official, he saw only a young boy. He even thought, "Was everything I tried for nothing?" Later that day, the villagers prepared a meal, and village headman brought it to the prince. He hoped to hear at least a word of thanks, but the prince calmly told him to leave. Hong was disappointed. They had given their best even though they didn't have enough food for themselves. But their offer was refused, so Hong ate the food himself. Back at the palace, the ministers believed the prince wouldn't last even a month in that faraway village. But Minister Han warned them not to be too sure. He also said that Prince Jumbin, the young prince's uncle who was also sent away to a nearby village, was more dangerous. Prince Jumbin was already planning a rebellion to help Prince Nozin get his power back. The next day, the village head's son, Tae-san, went to set up a stall at the market. There, he heard people talking about how the overthrown king had been sent to their village. He was shocked. Then his rival village head came and brought valuable goods and fish. When Tae-san returned and told everyone, "The person we welcomed is the former king," the villagers were terrified. They feared disaster would come to them. If something happened to the former king while he was in their care, the whole village could be punished or destroyed. They blamed village head Hong for putting them in danger. As things got out of control, the village head promised, "I heard the king will get his position back soon. Nothing will happen to our village." That night, Prince couldn't sleep. He was haunted by nightmares of his loyal followers dying. Feeling guilty, he thought, "I should have died with them." So he walked to the edge of a cliff and jumped. But as he fell, the village head caught him. The prince begged, "Let me go. There's nothing left to live for." But the village head pulled him back up and said directly, "If anything happens to you, our whole village will be destroyed. You cannot die." The next day, the villagers prepared lunch for the prince and asked Tae-san to bring it to him. When they found out the prince hadn't touched the food and sent it back, they worried. "Is the food not good? Is something wrong?" Tae-san explained to the prince that the villagers would worry if he didn't eat, and urged him to eat well. Hearing this, the prince said, "Tell everyone I ate well." And then he ate properly. Soon, prince's maid noticed the prince was missing and asked village head if he had seen him. Worried that the prince might do something, village head ran to the cliff. There, the prince was reading a letter. When the village head saw the prince, he thought he was going to jump again. He shouted, "Don't do it! Your actions could harm the whole village." The prince was surprised that someone would speak to him so directly. After a moment, other villagers arrived, and then a tiger appeared. Everyone was terrified. An old villager stepped forward to sacrifice himself. But the tiger suddenly turned toward Taysan. Just then, the prince took a bow and shot the tiger with an arrow, killing it. From that moment on, the villagers saw him differently. They no longer saw him as a burden but as someone who stood up when it mattered most. Later, the village head brought food to the prince. The prince said he liked it and it was delicious. He asked, "The stew is good. Who made it?" The village head explained that each villager helped by contributing what they could. Hearing this, the young prince was moved and ate all the food. When the villagers learned that the prince had eaten well, they were happy. Around that time, news spread quickly that the overthrown king was in Gwangju province. Former royal servant who came to see him, show their respect, and bring gifts. The prince hadn't expected this. He believed he had lost everything. Now, he saw that there were still people who cared for him. In the evening, the villagers looked at and opened the gifts. Then the prince came out and greeted each person, telling them to keep the food gifts for themselves. The next day, the village head's son came to the prince and asked him to teach him. He explained that there was no teacher in the village. He said, "If I can learn from a king, then one day I can enter the palace and stand up for the poor and uneducated." Hearing this, the prince agreed and taught him. Then the village head's son taught other children. Slowly, more children came and the school grew. At the same time, gifts kept arriving for the prince, and the village's storage houses became full. The prince no longer stayed alone. He ate with the villagers, listened to their stories, and became part of their daily life. The small village changed from a place of poverty and hardship to a place full of warmth and unity. Meanwhile, back at the palace, the ministers laughed at Prince Nozin without fear. But Minister Han warned them to be careful. He felt that the prince was no longer the same as before. A letter was sent to the prince asking for agreement to join a rebellion. One of the prince's men was caught while waiting for a reply. When he refused to answer questions, he was killed. Finally, the prince decided to fight back. He sent his message of agreement. The messenger delivered the prince's letter showing that he agreed. The prince secretly prepared to leave. Then the village head came and asked him not to go. He said that if the prince left, the whole village could be killed. But the prince said he had to go for the sake of the country. Unable to stop him, the village head guided him himself. As the prince met the people who came to rescue him, Minister Han and his men arrived. The prince tried to escape, but they were outnumbered, and he was captured. The prince looked at the village head and pretended to say, "Because he chose to betray me, I will kill him." He dragged the village head and falsely accused him of working with Minister Han and leading him there, all to protect Hong. Prince Nozin was captured. After being captured, he was sentenced to die by poison. Village head waited outside the governor's office, worried about what would happen to Prince Nozin. Prince's maid came and secretly took him to see the prince one last time before the final judgment. There, the prince said, "Meeting all of you was the best thing in my life." He gave the village head one final task. The next day, the judgment was given. Prince was ordered to die by poison. When the villagers heard the news, they were sad and cried. When the prince didn't come out, the guards prepared to go inside. But village head stopped them and said, "Let me go and tell him to come out." In truth, the prince had said, "I want to die in the village head's hands," and gave him that responsibility. So the village head carried out the prince's last wish. He himself ended the life of the young king he had loved and cared for like his own son. After Prince Nozin died, Minister Han ordered, "No one may take his body or bury it." The body was thrown into the river. The prince's body washed up on the riverbank. The village head found him, quietly brought him back, and restored the honors that had been denied to the prince.